Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for a conversation with one of Milwaukee's incredible community organizations, the Dominican Center. I'm Jenny Toutant, the Interim Chief Engagement and Education Officer. Denisha, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your role and the mission of the Dominican Center?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Denisha Tate-McAlister, and I am the Amani Neighborhood Revitalization Project Director. And I am working at the Dominican Center. And Dominican Center is a neighborhood organization that this year is celebrating 25 years in serving the Amani neighborhood. And the focus of the Dominican Center is to partner with residents to achieve and sustain neighborhood integrity, economic self-sufficiency, and family well-being. So it's super excited. I'm excited to share what we have going on.
Yeah, we've been working with Dominican Center for almost 5 years now, and it's been such a great relationship. I've been so impressed by the leadership of the organization, the steps that the organization has taken to center the voices of the residents in Amani in all of the decision making related to Amani's revitalization plan. It's been a really a huge privilege to be a part of that process. Can you tell us just how Dominican Center has created this culture of collaboration amongst the residents?
Absolutely. Well, for start, that was always part of the founding purpose of Dominican Center. Dominican Center was founded with the understanding that they're working with residents to achieve what residents want to achieve. They understood their role as a support center, as a convener, and a place of safety for residents to come forward and feel empowered, have their voice, connect with each other, and that place to say, okay, this is home. And so that focus has not shifted at all.
That's great. Can you tell us some examples of what the impacts have been of these collaborations?
Yeah, well, a couple of things to point out. First is the partnership part of collaboration. So in addition to us ensuring it's resident-led, the other side of that is ensuring that the resources that are necessary to make the changes that the residents are interested in are brought into the community. And those resources come through the various neighborhood organizations that are present in Amani. Amani has more than 27 different entities that focus on doing amazing things in the community. And so it really is about how do you bridge the residents who understand what they want and need and the community organizations who have resources and areas of expertise to make it happen. So, oh my goodness, amazing things have been going on. So I'll just give you a small example. So we were working with a family recently, specifically under the strategy of housing and economic development, and they're working to have improvements on their home. And the city has been a fabulous partner in that there are several home programs available for people who want to renovate or improve their current home situation. But as we got into the deep parts of it, there were some issues that clearly needed legal support. Now, that is not Dominican Center's role, but as a community convener, we knew who to call. So one call to legal aid, immediately this family had not just one, but multiple attorneys working on their case, helping them understand their rights, helping them understand the law and how to make sure that they get what they need. And you're talking about empowering. So it went beyond just home renovation. It now became, I now have a voice. I now better understand systems. And so one house at a time, one block at a time, the next thing you know, the entire Amani neighborhood is just better. And so those are how collaborations work for us. And there's so many more. So I want to talk about one that actually involves the rep, if you don't mind. So one of the areas that Milwaukee is struggling, to be honest, as it relates to health, is lead. We understand that we have parts of town that are more significantly impacted by lead in the water system. And mine is one of those neighborhoods. And so we're talking about being able to turn on your tap, but that glass of water that you're going to get in the middle of the night isn't healthy. We're talking about that young person living in that home who may have developmental delays and all sort of other health issues just because they got thirsty. We all know it's unacceptable, but what do we do about it? The coalition that has come together, Cole, the rep, youth leaders, different artists coming together to ensure that the families in Amani are first aware, educated, and empowered to make change, and then activated to help others do the same. That is so amazing, because when you think about health, the rep may not come to somebody's mind first. I'm not thinking about going to my local theater to improve my health. But that's the beauty of collaboration, because it's never one entity or one part of a system that it takes to make the change that a family needs for a better tomorrow. And so when people are able to show up with their skills, the gifts that their organization brings, working with residents who want to make change and whose life depends on this change, that's when amazing happens. And that's what collaboration is really all about.
I love it. I love it. It has been such an exciting project for us to work on too. And now, since we've gotten the release of those videos that we created,
Yes.
and anyone who's listening to this can go to our website and see the videos, or go to the Coalition of Lead Emergency as well to find them. And we've been able to have some dialogues around it in partnership with the Xyler Group. And now we've got various folks reaching out and saying, can we use these videos? The health department's aware. Like there's now some trickle effect in
Yes.
how we are able to, from that collaboration, be storytellers and
Yes.
share out the impacts in that education.
And that's really an example of the success and why collaboration is important. Because although your starting point may be that thing in that place, when it's done correctly, you've created an asset that somebody else can use and they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Collaborations have byproducts of just amazing things that can be used to help us all do better and be better.
That's great. So, because switching gears a little bit,
Okay.
I'm sure many of the practices that you and the Dominican Center have had, you've had a shift in the light of the two pandemics that we're really confronted today. One being the health crisis, COVID-19, and of course the longer pandemic of systemic racism
Yes.
that has been around for over 400 years, but recent events have shed more of a spotlight on them. Could you tell us how the current events have shifted how the Dominican Center has continued to serve the community over this last 4 tumultuous months?
Absolutely. And why it seems like it's so much longer than 4 months, seriously. So there have been interesting developments based upon specifically COVID. It has provided an opportunity to dialogue about the very issues we've been talking about. The disparities in health, economics, all of this were highlighted when statistics consistently showed that those living in communities of color, lower income, that they were hit harder by the disease, that the death rate was more likely because of this. And that is really the cross-section of both pandemics, right? And so it has, first of all, allowed Dominican Center to roll up its sleeves and do more. Do more, such as ensuring that the residents are aware of what resources are available. And these are resources that may have been unknown. Also, connecting residents to an increased access to things like food. Food insecurity has long-standing been an issue in Amani. Because of COVID, the food pantries worked together, talking about collaboration again, in an amazing way to ensure that every day of the week there was food available in our neighborhood. So whether it was someone who was picking up a food box that covered a family for 5 days, or it was a pantry that opened up on Friday to ensure that weekend meals were covered, it allowed everyone to figure out how to pool their resources, not compete, work effectively, and ensure that the needs are met. So Dominican Center had the ability to share that great resource. On our website, we are continually updating as we find out about resources related to education. Right now, families are trying to figure out what happens in the fall with their children. Also, we have an adult education program for parents that are going back to school to get their high school equivalency diploma or their GED. So in partnership with Northwestern Mutual, we were able to secure Chromebooks for the adults in the neighborhood. So whereas the school district had the children covered, it didn't change the fact that the parents were still working on their academic success as well. So being able to partner in that way allowed parents to not fall behind on their GED studies. And this, again, was because of COVID. People are safer at home, but how do we ensure that the goals they set for themselves are still being accomplished?
That's great.
The other thing is the staff. We had to learn how to still canvas in a way that didn't include knocking on someone's door.
Mm-hmm.
Phone calls. Hundreds of phone calls made every week to simply say, hi, how you doing? Is there anything you need? Mm-hmm. And what was so interesting about that is the first round of calls, people were like, yeah, we need this. But eventually, we realized that people needed contact. Right. So folks would talk and tell about how they missed their family or tell about something funny they saw on television. People looked forward to those calls. And that was also a gift of connecting neighbor to neighbor and making sure that we were taking care of each other.
Hmm. You just kind of addressed my next question here. That contact piece is so important. I think that's why it's so hard. It's like a theater company, like bring people together and we can't, So what are you hearing from residents right now that is most needed during these times?
It is still about the contact. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this goes in the category of new needs because the initial needs of Amani residents haven't changed.
Right.
Employment, educational success, housing improvement. And so we're talking about not only the cosmetics, but critical repairs or people living in situations where more than a third of their income is going towards rent, which leaves very little for food and other necessities. All of those issues, if anything, they were just highlighted by this COVID pandemic. So those issues still exist. Second, though, the need for contact has created such a creative vibe in the neighborhood. So just a few examples. When the city launched its Safer at Home, but also acknowledging cleaning your space. So they were saying, clean your stoop. Neighbors got together and decided, let's do it at the same time. So now I'm in my yard, so we're social distancing, but we're having conversations. So I don't feel alone. And the collaboration was incredible. LISC came forward and donated garbage bags to make sure that everyone had garbage bags when they cleaned their stoop. And the rep came forward with cases of water. So we made sure that everybody had a beverage so they weren't out there passing out as they were cleaning their stoop. Just having kits, that was really awesome because one person from the block would come and pick up the kit for all of their neighbors, and they would all decide Friday at 2, we're going to clean our block. And so that led to other things like exercising on the porch. So people would come out and sit in their chairs, and they would have cans of household goods, and they would exercise and laugh and talk. And
I
when
love
I
it.
tell the sense of community has been so beautiful and it was so necessary, because the mental health strain on being in a pandemic when life was already hard pre-COVID, it's just unreal. So those little nuggets of sunshine, those little points of connection, I tell you, it made a world of difference in the neighborhood.
That is so inspiring to hear. I mean, often we always hear all of the negative impacts of this as well. And, not that we wish COVID on anybody, but
Right.
it's so great to see where that positivity is coming, that sense of community, and how
Absolutely.
with
And
so many people know that story.
one of the things that I think I'm most proud of that the community accomplished, the young people. So some of the youth got together and said, I got to get out of this house.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much right now. And as a young person, school is an escape. Mm-hmm. Extracurricular activities are escapes, or just going over your friend's house. But when you're safer at home, if home has created an unhealthy environment, am I really safer?
Right.
Young people got together and said, I wonder if we could do something. So they happened to call one of our youth advocates, Miss Amanda, and said, what can we do? And she said, you know what? Let me think it over. But I think with social distancing, we can go out and clean some of those blocks that haven't engaged in neighbor-to-neighbor cleanup. From that first Saturday event, we now have an active youth council, a youth leadership group that has not only connected youth to each other, but they're hosting their first event this Friday, tomorrow. They are having a youth anti-violence march starting at Moody Park Pavilion, going through the neighborhood. March begins at 2 p.m., but in preparation all week, they have been working with other kids, making signs, educating them on the safety, how to have an anti-violence march, a safe, peaceful march. They've been doing signs to honor loved ones that have been taken due to violence. And now they're kicking off at 2:00. Mind blown, all because 2 kids said, I got to get out the house. And one grown up said, I'll make it happen.
That's amazing. And inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing the work that you're doing, the work that Dominican Center, the work that the residents are doing, and the youth. It's really great. I would highly encourage anyone who is listening, check out Dominican Center, check out the work at Amani, support them in any way that you can. It's really inspiring what this neighborhood has been able to accomplish.
It is. And it inspires me every day. We got some really great news recently. We were informed that the safety statistics have come out for the city. And the city overall is down. The safety is better. But the stats for the Amani neighborhood improved even greater than the city as a whole.
That's incredible.
So when I tell you it's working, collaboration, resident-led, everyone finding their space, regardless of age, in revitalization, it yields results. And those stats, they did it for us. That was the proof and the motivation to keep going further and further.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad to hear that. Can you answer one more question just to close out our conversation today?
Absolutely.
If you had one wish for Milwaukee, what would it be?
My one wish for Milwaukee would be to honor the assets of all residents and to help them engage in a meaningful way and making Milwaukee the city that we all want to live in. That would be my wish.
I love it. Thank you so much, Denisha, for your time, for all of your work that you do, that the Dominican Center does, that you inspire the residents to do. You're really, truly embracing creating positive change in Milwaukee, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having Dominican Center and Amani United as a feature, because we have lots to brag about and we want to tell everybody.